What happens when we attract people into our lives is going to be the opposite most of the time, because even though like attracts like, when I talk about we attract people like us, I don't talk about our defense mechanisms or our trauma responses. I talk about who we are on a soul level. That is what attracts. And also how we feel about ourselves. Those things, those two things, okay? When we understand this on a deeper level, we understand ourselves better. And we get to the point where we're not trying to fix the world around us. What we focus on is understanding where this is coming from. So the question that I said on my story was, ask yourself, and that's what you're gonna do, ask yourself, when did I decide, when in my childhood or when in my life, if it happened later on, did I decide that I'm not worthy of love? When did I decide that? And if I can remember when I made that decision, and it could have been in one instance, something extremely bad happened to you, or it could have been an accumulation of events that happened and then eventually had enough and you're like, wow, I'm not worthy of love, I'm not good enough, like you made all these decisions you might not be aware of yet, right? And this is why I'm here to help you bring that out. When you understand when you made that decision, then you're going to be able to look at yourself with more compassion, because you're going to say, wow, this is why I stayed in that relationship. This is why I kicked out that ex. This is why I get so frustrated when my child doesn't light up when I do something for him or her. Or this is why I don't feel connected with my child, because I don't allow him or her fully in. Or I do too much for them, for him or her. I'm buying all these things and they're still not grateful. Okay. Okay. So the reason why we're pulling a lot of information, and this is my expertise, of course, as a coach, to help you pull these things out of you, is not because we just want to see it and look at it and laugh at it and love. Like, the reason why we pull all this out is to help you forgive yourself. Is to help you become more compassionate with yourself. Because if you don't understand yourself, just like if you don't understand where your partner is coming from, you don't have to agree, but if you don't have any level of understanding, you're not going to be able to get past that, right? So if you're like, oh, I want to love myself, but I hate all the decisions I've made in my life. I hate that I don't have the relationships that I desire. I hate that I've been doing all these things and I can't do anything about it. And I don't understand why I did it, but I want to change it. And I'm so frustrated. Like, you're not going to be able to change from there. And you're definitely not going to have a huge breakthrough and transformation. Yadira said, if it didn't happen in what we know as childhood trauma, what is that called? If it's happening during, if it didn't happen, it's happened during. So if it didn't happen during childhood, then it happened later in your life. Maybe you had a horrible relationship, right? Maybe it was a divorce. It could have been anything. So that would have just been regular trauma, right? It can be a trauma from your adulthood, right? But the most common that we know is the childhood trauma, and it's so difficult. That is why it's so difficult for people to change the way they feel about themselves, because it goes so far back. And these memories are triggering. And we have decided that this is a story that we're telling, right? Because trauma and memory are linked. And when we didn't process a certain traumatic experience, it's going to set off a part of our brain, and also our nervous system has been messed up. So now the way we live, the way we speak, the way we interact with the world is going to be controlled by what happened, until we work through those emotions and until we work with our nervous system, which is what we're going to do deeper in this round of Healing Academy, which is going to have brand new teachings. I'm so freaking excited about it. So I'm help you map out your entire nervous system so you understand it. Right? But we have to understand this is where it started. So when I asked the question here in the group, do you struggle receiving love? And so many of you said yes. And so many of you who said yes, and I asked you the question, why do you think that is? You said, well, I think I don't allow people to love me because of this. And everybody who answered me talked about other people. Other than one person mentioned self-love. And this again, I don't say anything because it's good or bad, right or wrong. I'm saying this to bring awareness to you. I'm asking about receiving love, and most women tie it to love from other people. Love is love, right? I don't have to always say self-love. But the reason why I call it self-love is for more people to understand what type of love I'm talking about first. First. So when you hear about love, you immediately think of other people. So if you did not receive the love that you needed and you desired in your childhood, that means you eventually, whether it was, like I said, at one point, or if it was an accumulation, you decided you're not worthy of love. And do you think that you started giving love to yourself after you realized and you learned from your parents that you're not worthy? And it's not that you weren't worthy, it's that they were traumatized. They didn't know how to express themselves. All the things that you're going through, they are going through, and they went through them too, in a different way maybe. And back then it wasn't acceptable to ask for help, right? If you talk about your emotions, you're weak and whatnot, right? So those are some things to take into consideration, and it doesn't make your pain less valid. It just means if we focus on that, we're just going to be more hurt. We're going to trigger those memories, and it's going to hurt inside of our body. So what's more important is to practice forgiveness, to practice self-love, and to constantly work on healing our trauma. So going back to what I was saying about receiving, if you did not feel that you were worthy of receiving love, then you are not going to start giving love to yourself. And this is why where we are today. So whether you have firm boundaries or poor boundaries, it doesn't matter. All you want is love. But the problem is we've been looking for love in the wrong places. Okay? Whether it's from other people or an organization or a group, right? We turn to different things, and a lot of people end up in a cult. I did that. I was like, oh, okay, I need to have a religion and whatnot. Eventually, I'm like asking questions. It's not okay to ask questions. And it all comes back to me. There were 2-3 books that were actually taken out of the Bible when they decided to switch from matriarchy to patriarchy that were found later on. And in one of the Gospels that Jesus actually talked about, if you don't know yourself, you're extremely poor. Like you don't have anything. And if people tell you to look anywhere else outside of yourself other than within, you're never going to find what you're seeking. But we spend our whole life, and still to this day, we're programmed to look for answers outside of us. And then we wonder why we still feel empty. We do all the rituals, we do all the things, but we're completely lost. So we're here today trying to find answers. But are we certain? Are we aware? Have we acknowledged where it started? Why it started? What was the decision that I made? And why I have been putting up with the things I've been putting up with? Or why I haven't allowed the things that I haven't allowed into my life? So that's what we want to look at. And then we understand that that ties into everything. So if you don't feel worthy, if you don't believe that you're good enough, that's going to influence all your decisions. That's going to influence the way you show up in your life. That's going to influence whether or not you apply for a job. That's going to influence whether or not you start your business. That's going to influence everything. This is why I say your relationship with yourself determines the quality of your life. And if you don't make yourself a priority, you can accumulate all the wealth in the world. Nothing wrong with money. I have huge dreams and aspirations too. You know, I believe I'm going to be a billionaire. That is my dream because I have so much that I want to do and help this world with, right? On that level too, not just with the direct work that I do with my clients. Nothing wrong with wealth, but what becomes unhealthy is when we want to use things to make up for how we feel, and that never works. Whether that's fitness, alcohol, drugs, money, relationships, anything else outside of us is just going to help make us feel even more empty. So what I'm going to encourage you to work on is to clearly identify, am I having poor boundaries or firm boundaries, and why are they there? Like, what am I afraid of, or what am I seeking? What can I give to myself that I'm looking for in other people, right? And the other part is really like, when did I decide that I'm not worthy of love? And because I don't believe that I'm worthy of love, that's why I'm accepting things that are not okay, or that's why I'm totally closed off. Okay. Well, Of course, if that's how you felt when you were a child, of course you're going to act it out this way, right? And we can have so much more compassion for ourselves.